All right, this is the 81 through, I think it's the 81 Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck or Caddy. This really applies to any early water-cooled car, CIS, water-cooled Volkswagen. I did do a couple things already to determine it is a fuel pump, I believe. I'm pretty positive it's a fuel pump. It probably gonna need 1,000 other things like warm-up regulator and everything cleaned up. But yeah, it's not getting fuel. This is how you determine that. This is how I determine that. You can pull the spark plug out, pull the wire, put it on the spark plug and ground out the spark plug and have someone turn it over and see if it has spark. But I just always just get a can of ether, spray it in the intake, turn the car over, and if it runs, then you know you have spark. It did run until it ran out of ether, so that means you do have good spark. So next thing you want to figure out is why you have no fuel. So what I do is just, first thing I do is check the fuel pump fuse. So I just get this cheap test light from Harbor Freight. I think it was $3.99. Get in here. This interior's kind of torn apart. You want to find a, hello Mr. Lizard, want to find a good ground. So that's as good as ground as any. So turn the ignition on as the fuel pump will be working, so the on position. Find your fuel pump fuse. There's a whole bunch here. This is a later style fuse panel. I'm used to the earlier style, but this is almost easier. But there's your fuel pump fuse. Fuel pump 20 amp. So test both lugs. Make sure you have power to both. That means it bridges across and you're getting power to your fuel pump. I'm going to leave the key on as if the fuel pump should be working or it's getting power. So go down here. The fuel pump is located on the passenger side, right here by the fuel tank. Right here. Get your light. So we find a good ground here, which is right here. This is the cleanest part of this thing. It's kind of tough to find a good ground on these old cars, but it seemed to work last time. So now someone was nice enough to label this wire positive, which is very nice, but it's black and green. So you just want to make sure you have power, which you do. See, you have power going to the fuel pump. Pump's not working obviously, but you do have power going to it, so that's a good sign. Yep. So another thing you can check is ground. Make sure you have good ground. So what you want to do here is unplug this. It is a little corroded in there, so that could be an issue also, but we know we have good power there. So all right, so we want to use the positive as your ground, then see if you got power here, and you do. So that means you got a good ground. So you just hook it up the other way and make sure it works. So and make sure it tells you have good ground, so you can just hook this back up. I gotta get with the owner and see when he replaced this pump, or if he replaced his pump, and see if he wants to replace this pump, see how far he wants to go with this. But that's the first thing we need to do, is get this pump replaced and make sure we're getting fuel to where to the engine at least, and then go diagnosing everything else. I think it'll be a good runner. It had good compression. I did check compression in it, so we'll go from there. Stay tuned.